And so we were in Cancun for our honeymoon. Excellence Playa Mujeres is the name of the place. And I would recommend that place to any couple looking to take a vacation. It's the best. All inclusive. Your food, all your sodas, everything is included. It's great. Transferred from the airport there and then back. And really it's just kind of the whole community is, hey, look, everyone here is either newly married on their honeymoon or here for an anniversary. I would say that's probably 75% of the patrons. And so we were there for about 6 days. So I think on the fourth day, we're kind of floating around, and really the whole complex is in a big horseshoe shape. And all the buildings are oriented around this. It's almost like a lazy river. And you can kind of access the river right from your room. But it's just a big, long circle pool, you know? And so me and Molly were hanging out. We're like, hey, there's some folks down there. Let's kind of just drift with the current. And you've got to walk. It's not like a true lazy river where it'll take you the whole way. Because you could just stand and hang out in the pool. But we were kind of making our way down. And this gentleman, and he's got a big wide brim straw hat, so automatically I'm drawn to him, and we're kind of walking along, and he catches my eye, and he just points at me, and he goes, "Newlyweds?" And I point at him, and I go, "Newlyweds?" And so we had actually gotten married one day apart. So it was really sad because I thought we were going to have the same anniversary date, but we were one day apart. And so we get to talking. I'll say he's had a few drinks, if you could believe that. His name was Steve. And so Steve was a talker. We started talking. He said, what are you in? I'm in construction management. But there's a lot more finance involved in it than a lot of people think. And he was in finance. So we get to talking about Dave Ramsey and all these other, these businessmen that a lot of people look up to. And so I asked where he's from. He's from South Carolina. He's a Gamecock. So we talked about Steve Spurrier for a solid 5-10 minutes. And then we start talking about our experience there in Cancun. And he goes, you know what, man, I got to tell you, there's this martini bar in the main lobby. And he goes, they had this Ferrero Rocher martini. And really he called it a Ferrero Mocher, but it's a Ferrero Rocher. And at the time, I didn't even know that was like a little chocolate delicacy or whatever. And so he told me, he said, look, I'll tell you the truth. Last night, he said, I had a few drinks before dinner. I had a few drinks at dinner. And at this point, I'm like, dude, you've had a few drinks. It's like noon. I'm like, he's slurring his words. I'm like, you've had a few this morning, unless this is from last night still. But, I'm not judging or anything. And, and he goes, you know what? My wife, she was headed back to the room. And I said, I'm going to stop by the martini bar for a nightcap. And he said, I have 2 or 3 of those Ferrero Mocher martinis. He's like, and we've got the junior swim out here. So it's got like the day bed right outside the room. And I go, you know what? Maybe I just want to sleep under the stars tonight. And he's like, I got out there, immediately pass out. In my mind, surprise, surprise. He goes, I wake up at 2 a.m. and my foot is just wet. And I'm like, was it like dew? Because it's nighttime, there's a little dew on the ground and whatnot. It's like, is it dew? And then I feel something licking my foot. And I look down and a fox is sitting there licking my foot. And he obviously, he goes into his impersonation of what he did with the screaming, flailing of arms and a couple of expletives, things like that. But I was like, man, we weren't on the first floor. We were on like the second or third floor. And I was like, man, I'm glad I'm not on the first floor because I'd be out there getting licked by a fox, apparently. And so I don't know. It's just crazy sometimes in life when you go to these unique places and you open yourself up to conversation. You really have no clue where it's going to lead. And to tell you the truth, I have no clue, what Steve is doing today. It'd be amazing if he was a listener to the podcast, but I highly doubt it. So I hope Steve's doing well, and I wish him the best. And I'd love to go back to Cancun, and I pray that when we go back that him and his wife are there as well, so we can reunite and talk a little bit more. So
maybe they're still there. Maybe they loved it so much that he's now selling the Ferrero Mochers.
If I walked into the main lobby and he was behind the bar at the at the martini bar in the main lobby, I'd be beside myself with his big wide brim straw hat. That would be so good, dude. So good. Oh man. Well, that was a great time, and I feel like you've probably had a great time. It's been about 10 days since we last spoke, due to scheduling conflicts and things like that. So I'd love to hear how your past week and a half has been.
Yeah, man, I would love to share it. And before I do, I'm almost certain the Excellence has a Facebook group where you share stories about your experience. So this would be a great thing for your bride to post in that Facebook group.
That's true.
Maybe Steve is perusing. He's been waiting for 3 years now to hear his story of the Ferrero Mocher and the fox.
Yeah, maybe he's of sound mind at this point in his life to where he can truly appreciate the story.
That's right. Or at least his wife.
Right.
Past 10 days, man, they've been good. The 10 days ago, all right, I had buttered chicken that night. That's a Thursday night. That's awfully specific. But it's important because it was the night before we went out to Denver, Colorado, home of the lizards people.
Lizard people.
Yes. And that's where I've been the past 10 days. I've been in Colorado. And we've been there and been working with a couple of churches there on the ground in Colorado. I'll name them. All right. From West Side, the church I attend, there were two groups that went. There was a youth group and a college group. Well, I had the esteemed honor of helping lead that college group. And we worked with the youth group as well at some points. So we fly to Colorado and we get there. All right. That's at like 1 a.m. on Colorado. So 3 a.m. Gainesville, Eastern. Well, the next day we're throwing a massive block party for this church in Boulder, Colorado. If you've never been to Boulder, Colorado, go to Boulder, Colorado. It's beautiful. It's home of the Colorado Buffaloes. Anyway, onward. We're throwing this block party, and we have these bounce houses and all. Well, the bounce houses that we rented a trailer from the Southern Baptist Convention, I believe it was. They have trailers for these specific things if you want to throw a block party, etc. Well, they have generators to help blow up bounce houses, help power on popcorn machines, etc. Well, what does the generator not have? The generator doesn't have a working battery, nor does it have a pull switch. Like if you're operating a chainsaw, you got to pull it
to
make it work. Well, this generator has a battery start option and a pull switch option. Well, because the battery was broken, you had to do the pull switch option. Well, you can't do the pull switch option if the pull switch option is broken. So someone cut off the pull switch, so there was nothing to pull. And that sent us on a goose chase around Boulder, Colorado, to go find a battery to put in this generator. Let me tell you how fun that was. It was an absolute blast. The kids, they had a great time. Here's an interesting fact about Boulder. You see, Boulder, they don't allow any new property to be purchased for religious purposes. All right, so the only way to buy a building for a church, buy a building, and it's not just a Christian church. This is Mormons, Muslim, etc., any religious use. The only way to buy it is if another church dies. So that's
you gotta go kill a church.
You gotta go kill
if you
a
want
church.
to plant your own.
Yes.
Jeez Louise.
So either that or you just start doing mobile church. You rent out a school building, etc., for the day or for the couple hours, etc. That was day one of the time in Denver. Then we worked with a couple of churches in Calvary. No, we worked with a church. It's a network of churches. They go around, plant and replant churches. All right, they're called the Calvary Network of Churches or Family of Churches. What's funny, Bubba?
I know you're tired, and I know you just woke up from a fat nap, but you sound like you've been searching for the blood of Quetzalcoatl, man. Thing researching ancient mushroom rituals.
I kind of feel like that as well. That's another thing. We go get to rental car on Friday. Friday. When we fly in. Well, they don't have my all-wheel drive that I requested. They only have a minivan. And I said, yeah, that's fine. Just give me whatever is best for y'all. Because it's 12:30 a.m. at this point. And we're going to get to our houses at 2. So I get a minivan. I open that minivan. Holy cannolis, man. There is no doubt that I was in Denver, Colorado when I opened that minivan.
I know what you mean.
The
box was warm.
Yeah, and it was fresh. I mean, you couldn't stand 15 feet away from that car without being exposed to Mary Jane.
Contact high, yeah. You didn't inhale, though. That's the important thing.
That's right.
I didn't inhale.
In through the mouth, out through the nose. As you can tell. Yeah, so that thing, we bought some Ozium. We bought a ton of fresh packs. We started spraying it all down. Well, I opened the glove box, and lo and behold, what do I find? Well, I found some leftovers that they forgot to clean out.
Dang.
So, I mean, I'm telling you, that's special, man. So we sprayed that thing with Ozium, which is like a car scent freshener, but it's powerful, probably 5 times. Didn't hardly work at all. I mean, it was bad. So we were working with these churches, right? And we work with this place called Jesus on Colfax. Well, Jesus on Colfax is a ministry that helps the houseless friends on Colfax Avenue, the longest road in the United States, Colfax Avenue.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty crazy. But Colfax Avenue used to be an avenue where families would stop at the mountain, would stop on their way to the mountains for skiing, right? So they had all these motels, these breakfasts placed. I mean, this was in like the 1940s, 1950s, etc. Well, gentrification happened, and it moved out. It basically made Colfax Avenue very poor. Lots of houseless friends are on Colfax Avenue. So we did some motel ministry, bringing meals to people in motels. And this is something this Jesus on Colfax team does every week. So when we're going with them, they're knocking on these doors and they're like, "Oh, Randy, how's it going, man?" And then they check up on the past week, and these people are like, "Oh, let me tell you about the time that you prayed for me and God showed up for me." And I'm thinking, holy moly, this is incredible. That weekly to week relational capital they're building is pretty powerful stuff, and it's evident. The other thing they do is community meals, right? So we did a community meal, breakfast for lunch, which, if you know anything about me, you know that speaks to my soul very, very, very much. So I'm out on the side of the road. I'm saying, community meal, free meal. Come in, breakfast for lunch, breakfast for lunch. They had eggs. They had Greek yogurts. They had berries. We did a little mango juice and apple juice cocktail for him, man. You want to talk about shoot you up with sugar and make you run around? Wow. I bet that would do it. Anyway, that was awesome. Onward. We're still working with these churches. All right. This guy's name is Jeff DeClue. Jeff DeClue. Who has a clue? Jeff DeClue. All right. Absolute legend. You'll have to come next year so you can meet him. All right. So Tuesday rolls around. The back half of our trip is spent skiing in Winter Park, Colorado. Now, for our listeners, I found an image that showed the elevations of these resorts in Colorado about skiing. And Brett's a big Steamboat Springs guy. And you know what the elevation of Steamboat Springs is? It's 6,535 feet. All right, that's a little over 1 mile. So think about traveling down a slope 1 mile from the tippy top, and of course it's not a straight down slope. You're going anyway. You want to know what Winter Park is? Oh boy, it's 12,064 feet. All right, that's 2 miles, 2.5 miles. Well, I had the privilege of sharing that with Brett, and he immediately began to cry and gnash his teeth. I believe his bride told me that he ran into a wall. He was so angry because Steamboat is so tiny. But let's just say, anyway, there was a winter storm coming. I needed to share that. There was a winter storm coming. And, well, what do you do in a winter storm? Well, you need all-wheel drive. Well, what does vans not have? Vans don't have all-wheel drive. So we went on a wild goose chase. If you remember anything from the beginning of this story, is they didn't have what I requested. So they gave me a minivan that smelled like marijuana, and marijuana was in the minivan at the same time. All right, so I'm driving. I'm calling budget, and they're like, "Oh, blah, blah, blah. You need to go back to Denver Airport." So I'm driving back to Denver Airport. I walk up to the counter, and this is a good 50 minutes away from where we are. I walk up to the counter here, and I say, "Hey, I had 4-wheel drive, but they didn't have that. They gave me a minivan. However, the winter storm's coming, and we're traveling up a mountain. I don't think a minivan is probably the best option to travel up a mountain with snow and ice on it." And they say, "Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let me take care of you." So they give me the 4-wheel drive, nice and simple and easy. We drive out. We're ready to go. All right. So we head to Winter Park. We spend a couple days there skiing. Let me tell you about skiing real quick. I suck at it. But the views, I mean, I'm going down greens only, exclusively. But the views, man, you just want to see the creator at work on display with his creation. My goodness, you sit in a snowstorm, you go out and ski in that snowstorm. It is magnificent. Just absolutely beautiful. It's a nice, I went with a couple of beginners on Thursday. So I was hanging back with them, and I think that was my favorite part of the day of the ski, is because we were taking our time, and I was getting to take in the sights, and it was toward the end of the runs, like when the lifts close. Lifts close at 4 p.m. All right. Well, we went on the gondola at 3:10 p.m. and we got back at 4:45 p.m. So that's how we took our time. And it was just absolutely gorgeous. So, yeah, nothing. It's hard to beat being on top of that mountain, taking in the views, the creator's creation, man. It's awesome. All right, then we travel back. We catch the red-eye flight, and then we get back to Gainesville around 9:50 a.m. and perfect time. You get to listen to the sermon, then you go take some pictures of a baptism. You celebrate, you go home, watch a little golf, and then fall asleep. And now you're recording a podcast, and now I'm asking Brett, what does the past 10 days look like for you?
Well, I'd love to get to that, but I do have a couple questions for you, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
First off, I know you have some flight jitters and nervousness regarding long flights. Did the extra supplies you found in the initial van, did that assist you at all this morning on that red-eye flight?
Well, let's just say a little trade-in was done. Because I'm not about the inhale, but I am about I love gummy bears, man.
I feel you.
If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I also thought whenever you said that we didn't have four-wheel drive, and you said, so we went out, it sounded like you said, we went out looking for it. I was like, oh, this dude's stoned to the bone. He's out driving around AutoZone. Hey, do you have any like four-wheel drive laying around that I could use on this minivan? He's like, you need to go home.
Oh, that's funny.
Gracious. Well, sounds like you had fun. Who was the, in your eyes, and first off, I'm not gonna get on you just for riding the greens. You know what I mean? But who was the best?
Well, let's be real.
Snowboarder out of the group.
Let's be real. The greens at Winter Park are probably double blacks at Steamboat.
Oh wow, moguls and everything.
Who was the best skier and snowboarder out of the group?
Yeah.
There's a competition. I would say there's a college girl named Kaylee Wyndham. She skis for UF club team.
Wow.
Ski.
Like water ski?
No. Snow ski. They'll travel to West Virginia and such.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And then there's a high schooler named Pete, and he's a snowboarder. And they went on their final run down blacks on terrain parks, etc. So their knees are strong, man. Or they just fell and didn't say it.
Rubber bones.
Yes. But I think they're probably the best ones.
Last question. Did you engage in any evangelism while you were on the mountain? Because it seems like half your trip was more like a vacation. I mean, I hate to I hate to say that because it was a mission trip, but I hope you were on the mountain for the Lord, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I went in that and I said, why are we going skiing on a mission trip? How do we... And I think there is something beautiful about recognizing the beauty of the creation and being in a posture of worship down the mountain. And that's one of the reasons I stayed on the greens, is because I don't want to think about too hard. If I'm on blues, I'm thinking, how do I stay alive? How do I stay up? Right? That's not why I'm out on that mountain. I'm not trying to get better at skiing, if you know what I'm saying. And so that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is absolutely, how do you make your time skiing intentional, relational, pointing people to the gospel? And that's the thing, is mission trips don't start the day you leave to go to the airport. The mission trips started the day you accepted Christ as your Savior. Right? It's a reframing of the mindset. You don't go on a mission trip and then stop doing mission work when you get back home. Same thing is, you shouldn't start doing mission work when you go on a mission trip. There is no separation of mission and trip, is what I'm trying to say. Every single thing, if you're a believer in Christ, if you follow him with your life, every single thing you do needs to point toward him. There's not really... I think there is a temptation that says, oh, I'll give 95% of my time, but 5% I really need for myself. I really need to do X. I'll hold that back from God. That is a temptation of Satan, of demonic force. All right, so even if you're skiing in Steamboat, you're not going on a mission trip, but you're skiing in Steamboat, how do you turn that into an intentional, how do I share the love of Christ with the people around me? So it's a reframing of the mindset in that regard, because the mission trip never stops, and the mission trip didn't start when we left for Denver. So how does that look practically? Well, you get in the ski lift, you get in a gondola.
I was about to say, that's a solid 5-10 minutes in the gondola.
Yeah, I mean, where else can you go? Nowhere. And so we talked about a little cannabis before. Well, we talked about marijuana. Well, I was talking with this woman. It was a 5-day ski trip. And after a day and a half, my knees were about to tear off the bone. And she was on day 5. And I was just asking her what she does. Well, she works for a firm. And I asked her what her husband does. And he works in the cannabis industry. He's in charge of rolling out the cannabis into states legally. So you know how Colorado legalized cannabis recreationally. Well, he works for the government and is working with all these states on how do we effectively roll out cannabis legally. And I just thought that was interesting. And I said, what does that look like? And she said, I honestly have no idea. I try to stay out of it. I was like, that makes one of us.
You said rolling out cannabis. I was like, oh, this dude must have, he must be skilled with his hands. This,
Yeah.
Definitely not what I
play
would
on
thought.
words.
Yeah. He's rolling it out just to different states.
That's right.
Wow.
But yeah, you just got to be intentional. That's the same thing as, why would you go play pickleball in Gainesville, in Sarasota? How are you going to turn that into an intentional time? Why would you go play basketball? Why would you go to a coffee shop? Are you going to a coffee shop to drink coffee? Well, maybe you need a caffeine. How can you use that time to make it intentional and missional? These are the things we must be fluent in as believers. Because you have to recognize that life on this earth is only temporary. But there's a greater life that's eternal. And if we keep that from someone, if we're too ashamed to share that with someone or too scared to share that with someone, do we believe it? End of statement. Period. Rhetorical reflection question.
No, yeah. That's good stuff. I mean, going back to the gondola, I feel like that's an easy move while you're out there. You get the chapstick. Something me and my dad and my brother, what we would do is we would get on the gondola and pull out the chapstick immediately. Get a hit on the lips, pass it. Get the hit, pass it, And then, you got 3 other people in the gondola. Can I interest you guys in a bit of Carmex? A little lip dope, Never got anyone to accept it, but, it starts the conversation. And that's really what you're trying to do. So, but yeah, that's great. This sounds like a fun trip. Pun intended. But yeah, I think I think you might be coming down from that high altitude.
Yeah.
Is what it seems like. So
Oh, dear. Well, how has the past 10 days been?
The last 10 days have been good. They've been really good. I think we recorded on a Thursday. We did our different scenarios, island, who you going to bring, that type deal. I'm trying to think. Friday and Saturday and Sunday, my parents came into town, so we hung out with them for a good bit. I watched some of the UFC fights on Saturday night. That was crazy. Dustin Poirier got that knockout. Sean O'Malley defended the belt, so that was pretty huge. That was a late night. And then the week after that was really, I'm kind of starting up this new project, and so obviously there's a lot of work on the front end of that, but it's been a good growing experience for me professionally. A lot more responsibility than I had previously, so it's been good. It's been a little fast paced, trying to get stuff done, but it was good. And I feel like this weekend was chill. It was warm. Like it really felt like summer this past weekend. So I'll say yesterday we went to the park with some of our friends, Zach and Joy, and they've got some kiddos. So we went to this park around Fruitville Road, and it's got, I want to say, 16 pickleball courts. And so we brought our pickleball stuff. But next to the pickleball courts is like a really nice playground for the kids. So if you were to bring a bunch of friends, you could say, hey, you guys play, we'll watch all the kids, and then you kind of swap in and out. I think that's kind of the idea behind all of it. But whenever we got there, it was like 10 a.m. on a Saturday. It's going to be popping. So it was probably 85% old people / snowbirds, and the rest were folks around our age. So, but yeah, it was good. We didn't get to play any pickleball. We just kind of played at the park and then went to Chick-fil-A afterwards. Man, I'm trying to think. I feel like you've had just such an eventful week, and I really haven't. It's just been, just kind of the typical deal.
Maybe that is eventful. What's typical for you could be eventful for someone else.
It's true. I will say we are last Saturday. We went and walked through a new place to live, like a townhouse type deal, because we're currently in an apartment. We liked it. The dude who's the property manager was super nice. And so we put in like a application, I guess, to rent. That was last Sunday night, and we didn't hear anything all week. And I was starting to get a little discouraged, because I was just incessantly checking my email over, like every 45 minutes. Nothing. And then today you get that email. It's like, hey, great news. You guys are accepted. So we're going to be moving here in not even a couple months, in like 4 weeks. So it's exciting stuff. And, I think we're going to have to have you and Jackson and your folks come down and visit us after we move in. Cause the amenities at this place are killer. I think it's got around 16 pickleball courts, indoor and outdoor basketball goals, fitness center, 3 pools. It pops off, dude. It's going to be sick.
Holy moly, yeah!
It's going to be good.
Man, I'm about to run around that place all crazy and chaotic, screaming, victory! Welcome, Molly and Brad and Stetson. Welcome, welcome. And then I'll attach one of those things that the planes attach to their back. And they have the welcome 50% off at pickleball
Hell and back.
courts. Yeah. That is amazing, man. I didn't even know about all those amenities, but I'm excited to take advantage of them while I stay
it's
there
gonna
for
be fun.
free.
I'm excited to see him. Right. I'm excited to see him for myself, but also to have you guys kind of, y'all are so good. Y'all play pickleball so much. And I just we've talked about, I've only played like 4 times in my life. So I'm excited to roll up with you guys and be like, look, I live here. They don't. They're my brother-in-laws and they're good at pickleball. So I dare any of you to try to make fun of me or mess with me. And all these old
because
people
we'll
are
spank you with our paddles.
That's right. And they're big paddles. They're wide paddles.
They're big paddles. Big wide paddles. Mine are broken, but they'll do the trick.
So I'm pretty stoked for it. I just think, man, that indoor basketball goal, or not, it's not a goal. I mean, it's a full court. You can go in there
That's
at any
crazy.
time of the day and just, of course, I might have to get my own basketball. I didn't think about that. But that's a minor purchase,
Yeah.
So
Worth it.
I'm pretty excited about it. Yeah, that's kind of it. I don't know if you want to.
Man.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I'm fired up. I'm fired up to stay there for a couple months this summer, as we plan our next adventure together, our next business venture.
I think, we're going to have a spare bedroom, so no more sleeping on the couch. I think we're going to have like a little futon, maybe something like that. And it's got an upstairs. It's two stories.
Man. So you're
And I've
rocking with
never-
a 3-2?
3, 2.5, boy.
Gigi goo goo gaga, man.
What you know about that powder room, boy? Nothing fancy about a half bath, I assure you. But yeah, man, I'm stoked for it. I was going to say something. Oh yeah, I never lived in a place that's got 2 stories, like stairs. I mean, obviously my dorm, I lived on the 3rd floor of Jennings Hall at UF, but those stairs aren't really within my domicile. So it'll be
Does
interesting.
your parents' home not have 2 stairs?
Not growing up. It does
Oh.
now, but they moved in after I was at college.
That's
So-
cool.
Pretty crazy. It'll be a new experience all around.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, you see any sports rocking around these parts recently? I know you mentioned some Sean O'Malley guy, etc. What else are you seeing?
Yeah, Florida basketball has been on a real tear in the SEC tournament. They lost today in the championship to Auburn, unfortunately. Um, and our best center, Big Daddy, I think he's 7'1" or something like that. Hand logged, and he looks like Will Ferrell. I don't know if you saw it. It was I didn't see it. They didn't show it, but I saw that his leg was bleeding, and he was not moving. And I was like, oh, that's weird that it's bleeding. And then turns out it was a compound fracture. And I'm like, oh, that's how a broken leg makes you bleed, is because the bone's sticking out. So pretty gruesome. And he was really our best center. So that was pretty devastating because our team was just doing so good. And, you get I don't know if we're a 6 or a 7 seed in the tournament, but we just had so much steam behind us. And now it's kind of hard to imagine us really playing well without him because he's a real force down under.
I did see that. Very sad.
So what else? How could I forget? You watched the end of the Players, I presume? Or did you fall asleep before the end of it?
I was asleep, but I did my research.
Would you like
It was
to
pretty awesome.
divulge into that?
Well, Wyndham Clark, I believe, had a chance to tie it up with Scotty Scheffler. Well, here's the deal about Scotty Scheffler. Scotty Scheffler started about 6 back in the pack today, and he was just absolutely on a tear. And Scotty Scheffler is my favorite player. And we've talked about Scotty quite a few times. He needs to get his putting in order. All right. Every single time I watch him, he misses putts. So he had a birdie putt. He had an eagle putt, actually, and he missed it. He made that birdie putt. The next hole, he had a birdie putt. He missed it. He made a par putt. Well, that's when I stopped watching because I figured I'm not helping him. Because every time I watch, he at least 2 putts. Well, apparently, when I turned it off, he started to 1 putt. Well, Wyndham Clark has a chance to tie it at the very end, and it lips out. It lips out for the playoff. And Scotty wins it, and the world rejoices. That's what I know. But I was also asleep. So you may know more.
That's a pretty good breakdown. No, Scotty, he obviously he won the tournament last week as well. But in that one, he changed his putter to like a mallet style, and he was just absolute Drano. And I know he missed some.
Scotty
this weekend
won
as
last
well.
week?
Yeah, he won 2 weekends in a row.
You see, I didn't even know that.
But it's because he switched his putter up, and he stopped lining the line on the ball. He stopped, lining it up because he was getting in his head too much apparently. So he said, "Look, if I don't have a line to line it up, I'll just use my putter. I'll be a little more creative on the green, whatever that means. I just try to hit it in the hole." But yeah, he was absolutely on fire today, and like you said, that last putt from Wyndham Clark was just it's hard because I would love the dramatics of a playoff, but really I wanted to see Scotty win, but and it wasn't just a lip out. It wasn't like it hit the side and just, reverted the angle a little bit. It was a full 180 toilet bowl lip out. I mean,
that stinks.
It was really, really tough to watch. But he absolutely hammered the putt, If it hadn't caught the edge of the cup, it probably would have blown by it by 4 or 5 feet. That's how hard he hit it. So I think if he puts a little more touch, I think he sinks it. And obviously they go to a playoff, but you really do just hate to see the loop-de-doop toilet bowl 180 lip out, especially for the loss on that big of a stage.
Yeah, and that's what they say is you're never going to make a putt that you don't hit it to the hole. Right, so it's better to hit it harder.
Right. I'd rather bounce it off the back of the cup and have it go in than
That's right.
leave it short, especially in that situation.
Oh
Because
yeah.
could you imagine if it was a good line, like if it was a perfect line and you just hit it 6 inches short? I dang throw myself into the lake.
That's right. And did you see that Wyndham Clark came in second last week as well?
I knew he was towards the top last week, but I didn't know he was second.
Yeah. It looks like Wyndham's living in Scotty's shadow. Maybe we'll have Wyndham on to see how he's handling that.
Yeah, that can't feel good. That can't feel good. Because Scotty's just he's just such a good ball striker. He just doesn't miss greens, you know? And when he does, he scrambles for par.
Yeah, chips it straight in. Why
Nothing
not?
to him. Have you been watching any reality TV? Because it's
No.
been good.
But I had some sports that I wanted to share.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I didn't know you were. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Here's what I want to do for our listeners. I want us to do a bracket for NCAA March Madness. Everybody, quite frankly, listeners, bracketology. All right.
I had a feeling this was coming.
I don't know what the reward is going to be, to be quite honest. Maybe, but do you prefer ESPN or CBS Sports? I think we got to decide right this instant.
Probably ESPN, just because I don't remember my
ESPN.
login info for CBS.
ESPN Sports. All right. Listeners, listen up. Fill out your bracket. Go to the episode notes. Do it. Do it. We're going to party. Whoever wins may just receive a free lifetime subscription. Maybe they won't, though. You'll just have to find out once you win what you learn. Maybe it will be a breakfast date with the two of us at Waffle House. There's a lot of options for us.
And maybe
And
we'll
time
just
will
give
tell.
you a pick of 3 different options, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe like breakfast, you know, I don't want to say date. That'd be weird, right? But especially if it, you know, never mind. But we could do like breakfast or brunch. We could do a piece of merch. We could do a free subscription. We could do all kinds of things.
We could do a massage.
Oh, it's like a couple's massage, but you just have 2 people massaging you at once. We record the podcast.
Massaging you. I think that's a win. Yes, our next the episode is recorded while we're massaging you.
I've got one hand on the mic. The other hand is just bacon grease. Just deep tissue.
Oh baby, we'll light a fire in that on your back.
A grease fire. Just like saute some veggies on their back.
That's how we. That's how we do the full body wax. It's just burn all the hair off with bacon grease.
You just walk in, it's like a month later, you walk into like the doctor's office, someone's like, somebody cooking bacon? You're like, it's just in my pores. I have showered 30 times.
I put Osium all over my back, man.
Yeah. I tried smoking 20 blunts. It wouldn't go away. I tried everything.
Oh man,
goodness.
that's hilarious.
Yeah, so I guess we'll add couples massage to that list as well.
That's right.
I'll say personally, I've got a whole mason jar full of bacon grease. And to be quite frank, Molly won't let me keep any more of it. She says, "Oh, you keep all this bacon grease, but you never use it. Well, guess what? This weekend I made eggs and I didn't have any bacon. So guess what? I put a little dollop of bacon grease in there and I cooked eggs. So I showed her, I stuck the jar in her face. I said, look, you see that little divot there from my spoon? I made eggs and I used bacon grease.
Mm.
And then we had, we made bacon tonight. And I filled it right back up. But I want another jar. I want another jar and she won't let me.
Well, you got to have a
jar.
massage jar. You can't mix your bacon greases. You got to have one for the massages. You got to have one for your foods.
Yeah. And I think it all kind of comes down to how you access the grease. For cooking, obviously you get a spoon. I like to get we have this fancy little spoon that has these kind of ridges around it. And so it leaves a real nice design when you scoop the grease. So I use kind of this fancy spoon to scoop the grease whenever we cook with it. But I think a massage jar, you could just kind of do the old bear in the honey pot and just kind of do that natural scoop. And you just freaking slather
get it under your nails.
Yeah.
Maybe a little flick if it's getting stuck.
And it's high grade bacon grease. So it will start to render at, body temperature. You don't really need it super hot. And that's what I love about it, is you just start rubbing it. It renders down into this nice Earl. And yeah, it's great.
Man, I think we've convinced whoever's going to win this March Madness that they should do the couples massage.
Somebody just creates like 10 different email accounts just so they can have a ton of different entries. Yeah. I got to get that massage.
Oh, dear. Well, I didn't watch any reality television, but let me know, what have you been watching?
It's, I'll say this. We are living in the glory days of Bravo, because 4 out of the 5 days of my week are, they have a new episode of something coming out. Monday nights, I watch Below Deck. Tuesday nights, I watch Vanderpump Rules. Wednesday night, of course, I watched the third reunion for Beverly Hills, Real Housewives, was this past week, so that's no longer on. So really, I'm just Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Summer House on Thursday. But I'm sure we'll get something here soon to take the place of Beverly Hills. But for really about a month there, it was Monday through Thursday. I was, grinding out a different Bravo franchise every single night. So, but it's been good. It's been really good. Below Deck starting to heat up. Molly doesn't like it because she says it's the same thing every season. Kinda, but it's fun, right? It's good entertainment. Tuesday, Vanderpump, obviously coming down from Scandival. He's kind of making his way back into the group a little bit. And his ex, Ariana, she's not down with it. It's her and Katie. There's 2 girls, and they absolutely hate Tom Sandoval for, cheating on her. But all the other girls in the friend group, they were totally team Ariana. But now they feel so bad because Tom has apologized several times. And he's a pretty emotional dude. And that makes them feel emotional. So you can kind of see them starting to make their way back to his side of the table. And Ariana's response to that is, it's pretty concerning for them. Because she's getting very jealous. She's becoming very angry. And controlling and kind of manipulative as well. Manipulative, yeah. So we'll see how it pans out, but I don't think Ariana is going to be in such a highly esteemed light at the end of this season as she was last season. That's just a prediction I'll make. And then Summer House is just the height of entertainment, really. You've got Carl and Lindsay. They are engaged to be married like 5 months after the filming. Obviously, every weekend they go out there to the Hamptons to the summer house, and quite frankly, they get there Friday afternoon, and by Friday night, they're arguing and screaming at each other. Which, look, I'm totally on Carl's side. Lindsay's, to be honest, she's pretty crazy, is what it seems like. I don't know if you've watched any of the season, but she's crazy, man. She is. But yeah, that's kind of a quick breakdown of the reality TV I've been watching. But yeah, you got to get caught up because it's just good stuff.
Yeah, I'll probably watch an episode tonight with a side of chicken broth.
Oh,
Yeah, something to warm the soul as I intake crazy Lindsay and radical Carl. But it's good, man. What about songs of the week as we're wrapping up our time here? We're working on that 1 hour mark. What have you been listening to this week?
we are. Man, I'll say this episode has absolutely flown by. I feel like your trip to Denver left me almost in this trance, you know? I was just dreaming about being on the mountains, and I'm pretty jealous of you. I'm pretty jealous.
I'm telling you, we need to go.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
so beautiful. Oh my, not Steamboat, of course.
Dude,
but
you've never been, dog. It's more beautiful, I promise you. I
no,
guarantee it's more beautiful.
Oh.
Just because you got higher in Winter Park doesn't mean it's it's more beautiful. That's
That'll
not really
preach.
true.
That'll preach. Oh, keep going. Keep going on this trail.
Look, I'm just saying, just because you're higher doesn't mean you're more beautiful. You know what I mean?
Oh, talk to him, Pastor.
I think about, all the guys that are in Maverick, the movie, Top Gun, Maverick. I'm like, wow, these dudes are really good looking. They've got abs. Their bodies, their chest is not as hairy as mine. Some would say hairless. And look, I'm like, gosh, these guys, they're high and mighty, But that doesn't mean they're any more beautiful than me, even though they are objectively and objectionably, I guess. But yeah, that's a little bit of a tangent. But my song of the week is.
I was listening to our first episode ever, and we talked about what is beauty, and you said something quite profound. Beauty is what's on the heart, what's on the inside. Pretty is what's on the outside. Your imperfections, your hairy chest, doesn't matter when it comes to beauty, right? That's something you can shave your hairy chest. Beauty is how your heart reacts and operates. And let me tell you, you are beautiful.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And really, yeah, I mean, as you shave your chest, it's just going to grow back, right? So it's a very temporary thing. But yeah, I'm not going to go any further. I don't remember saying that on the first episode, frankly. It was so long ago. It was, I don't know, 34 weeks ago.
About.
Just a guess, roundabouts there.
No, that's accurate.
And I'll say this. I know I keep saying I'll say this, but we've come a long ways, dude. As far as the production of this show, I haven't gone back and listened to it because just the medium that I was recording the sound on is just so pitiful. And obviously, this microphone, your parents gave it to me for Christmas, but it's gotten so much better from the video quality. And I'm really just boosting us up here. But this is based on reviews that I've heard in person. So I'm pretty excited about what the future holds. And no matter what anybody says, we can't be stopped. We really can't.
That's accurate. All right. So what's your song of the week?
My song of the week is Color Up My World by Ben Rector. It's kind of fun. It's a shorter song, but I'm trying to figure out how to describe it. It's got some banjo in it. It's a little more country than what he typically does. And he's got, I can't remember her name, frankly. It's a female country artist that sings in it. She's got a great voice. But yeah, it's just kind of a fun song, you know, about a loved one is what it's about. But I urge you all to go out there and give it a listen. It's obviously we'll put it in the collection, but it's a really good one.
That's awesome. I look forward to hearing it. My song of the week is Nothing But the Blood by Charity Gale. We listened, I was one of the drivers on this trip, so we drove a lot. And let me tell you how much Charity Gale we listened to. We listened to a lot of Charity Gale. And it's hard to listen to this song in the car because you kind of just want to do a Chinese fire drill. You want to go outside, run around, switch seats, do it again. So maybe that's a game to play while you're listening to Nothing But the Blood by Charity Gale. Do the Chinese fire drill with your friends in the car. But you got to raise your hands as you're running around the car. But great song. Great song. And we are crossing that 1 hour threshold. Any parting thoughts?
No, I'm excited to be back on our rhythm. You know, I don't think you have any huge trips planned in the next coming weeks. So, you know, it looks like you'll kind of finally be prioritizing the podcast over your own personal agenda and plans and fun and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for what the future holds.
Yeah, and if I ever do that again, I want to be reprimanded. But I'm excited as well, and I just so our listeners, in case you forgot, it's one of our core values and kind of why we exist. We exist to love you deeply and generously, and we're going to see you in 7 days.